Imagine this. There is a global army of young people, not soldiers with guns, but warriors with keyboards. They don't protect borders. They don't protect freedom. Their job? To attack anyone who dares question their glorious nation. To shout down critiques, cancel dissenters, and spam propaganda like their lives depend on it. These people call themselves Little Pink, the loudest, angriest ultra-nationalists China has ever produced. And today I'm going to tell you why I refuse to be one of them. Spoiler alert, this isn't just about China. It's about patriotism itself, and why what you think of as loving your country might actually be one of the greatest scams in human history. Let me start with a question that cuts right to the core. Imagine you were a young German born in the 1920s or 1930s. You grow up surrounded by military parades and endless speeches about national pride. Your teachers, newspapers, and radio broadcasts all pound the same message into your head. Germany is your sacred homeland. Defend Germany at all costs. By the time you turn 18, World War II is raging. The government tells you that your patriotic duty is to fight, maybe even die, for Adolf Hitler's vision of a glorious Germany. Now, stop and think. Would true patriotism mean obeying those orders blindly, marching off to invade other countries just because your government told you to? Or would real love for your homeland mean standing up and saying, "No, this is wrong. I won't let my country destroy itself or the world for the sake of a tyrant"? That is the ultimate test of patriotism. Sometimes loving your country means defying your government, even if it means being branded as a traitor. And this isn't just history. Every generation faces its own version of this test. And today, millions of little pink in China think they're defending their nation online. But just like these young Germans, they don't realize they're actually serving the very system that's destroying their country from within. Now, here's my personal confession. I don't love my birth country. I was born in China. I had no choice. And don't get me wrong, I have deep affection for parts of it. Okay? The food, amazing. The diversity of nature, beautiful. The people, many are smart and hardworking. But do I feel some deep, unconditional, patriotic love for China? Do I feel a spiritual duty to pledge allegiance no matter what? Absolutely not. And here's why. Most of what we call patriotism, it isn't noble. It's just habit, nostalgia, and convenience. The street you grew up on, your mom's cooking, the friends you made at school, which have nothing to do with loving the government. But governments don't want you to see it that way. So they pull a bait and switch. They tell you that your personal affection for home equals royalty to land. And if you ever question their power, well, congratulations. You've just been branded a traitor. Now, let's dig deeper into this idea of loving your country just because you were born there. When you really think about it, it's just absurd. Imagine this. You have two sets of parents. The first are your biological parents who abandoned you at birth. The second are your adoptive parents who raised you, loved you, sacrificed everything to give you a good life. Now tell me, which parents deserve your love and royalty? Obviously, the ones who actually showed up for you, right? But when it comes to countries, many people insist you must love your birth country, no matter what, even if that country gave you nothing but misery, while another country welcomed you, educated you, and gave you a future. And it gets even crazier than that. Let's say you spend just 5 years of your life in your birth country, but 25 years in another country that, shaped who you are today. According to the logic of blind patriotism, you are still supposed to love that birth country more, simply because you happen to be born there, like some cosmic lottery ticket. This isn't just illogical, it's dangerous, because authoritarian states exploit this twisted logic to wage ideological war. And China is the master of this game. They tell Chinese immigrants around the world, no matter where you live, your first royalty must be to the motherland, China. Think about how destructive that is. Imagine if every Italian American felt their highest allegiance was to Rome. Imagine if every German American swore loyalty to Berlin. The United States would collapse from within, divided into warring clans of ancestral royalties. And China uses this very strategy today, targeting the diaspora in countries like the US, Canada, and Australia. They just weaponize identity politics, turning Chinese immigrants into political pawns. And the little pink eat it up, happily spreading Beijing's propaganda overseas. Blind love for birth country isn't patriotism. It's a mind control trick designed to fracture open societies in the West and keep authoritarian regimes powerful. And nowhere is this trap more obvious and more dangerous than in authoritarian regimes like China. In China, there's no distinction between the nation and the party. Criticize the government, you're automatically attacking the country. Dissent isn't just disagreement, it's treason. And that's where the Little Pink come in. They are a generation raised on state propaganda from birth. They've been taught to treat online arguments like actual warfare. And their mission? Defend CCP at all costs. If you call out corruption, they'll swung you. If you expose lies, they will spam you with insults. If you ask tough questions, they'll try to silence you, digitally or socially. And here's the twisted part. Most of them don't even realize they are being used. They genuinely think they're fighting for their beloved homeland. But the truth? They're just free labor for Beijing's propaganda machine. Every angry comment, every online attack, it's all part of a larger system designed to keep people scared and compliant. And who benefits? Not the ordinary Chinese person, not the patriotic youth. Only the rulers at the very top, sitting back and sipping tea while millions of Little Pink do their dirty work for free. Now, here's another uncomfortable truth. Patriotism isn't about noble selflessness or loving your fellow citizens. It's about self-interest. Specifically, the way people tie their own ego to the fate of the nation. When China was dirt poor in the 1960s or 70s, there were almost no Little Pink. Nobody was out there screaming about China's greatness because there was nothing to feel great about. People were too busy surviving famine and chaos. There was no personal glory in loving a broken country. But as China rose economically, a new wave of nationalism emerged. Why? Because millions of people started tying their personal identity and self-worth to the so-called rise of China. When a country wins, they feel like winners. When a country is criticized, they feel personally attacked. It's not about loving other citizens. It's about protecting your own fragile ego. And that is why so many Little Pink today react like wounded animals when you point out corruption or human rights abuses in China. It's not rational patriotism. It's a defensive reflex. Like you just insulted them personally. This is why patriotism can become dangerous. It drives people to support wars that won't actually improve their lives, just to preserve the illusion of national greatness. Look at Russia right now. Thousands of young men are dying in Ukraine, not to defend their homes, but to satisfy Putin's imperial fantasy. Their families are shattered, their communities destroyed. And for what? So one man in the Kremlin can chase a delusional dream of restoring empire. And the same is true for China's obsession with Taiwan. If Beijing ever launched a full-scale invasion, China would collapse and millions would die. But will the average Chinese person's life magically get better if Taiwan is reunified? No. only Xi Jinping's dream of historical legacy will be fulfilled. The people will pay in blood, while the ruler gets the glory. And that's the dirty secret of extreme nationalism. It's never about people. It's about the egos of those at the top and the egos of the masses who have been tricked into thinking their self-worth depends on a flag. And here's the final nail in the coffin. Patriotism is not natural. You weren't born loving a flag or a border. You were taught to love them through songs, slogans, rituals, and endless repetition. It works just like a religion. Instead of a god, you worship the nation. And instead of Sunday sermons, you have national anthems, parades, and propaganda campaigns. So, why do governments love patriotism so much? Because it's the ultimate shortcut for control. When people think questioning a state equals betraying their country, they stop thinking critically altogether. And instead of holding their leaders accountable, they will fight each other. Citizens tearing down other citizens, while the elites laugh from above. Again, there is a massive difference between fighting to defend your home and dying for a dictator's ego. But patriotism deliberately blurs the line. If someone invaded my house, threatened my family, you'd better believe I would fight with everything I have. That is real love. Love for people, not some abstract symbols. But here's what regimes do. They'll take that pure instinct to protect the loved ones, and they twist it. They convince you that your duty to your family magically extends to their ambitions. Even when those ambitions have nothing to do with your survival. They will send you to die on some faraway battlefield, not for defense, but for conquest. And they'll wrap it up in a flag, play a stirring anthem, and tell you it's heroic. This isn't patriotism. It is emotional blackmail, dressed up as a virtue. Think of it like this. Imagine you had parents who constantly screamed at you, right? Hit you, and controlled every part of your life. But everyone around you says you must love them unconditionally because they're your parents. It sounds insane, right? But that's exactly how blind patriotism works. And many governments in the world are like those abusive parents, demanding endless love, even as they mistreat the very people they claim to protect. Unconditional love for an abusive system is not noble. It's self-destruction. Back in ancient times, maybe patriotism had a purpose. Tribes needed royalty to survive. Nations faced real threats of annihilation. But today, most countries are not at risk of being wiped off the map. Borders are stable. Nuclear deterrence keeps superpowers from direct war. Yet, governments keep recycling the same fear-based messaging. The enemy is coming. Unite around us or perish. Because fear keeps you obedient. Fear keeps you waving the flag instead of asking why your leaders are corrupt, why your cities are crumbling, and why your taxes keep disappearing into some black hole. Modern patriotism is less about survival and more about distraction. So here's my choice. I refuse to be a pawn for someone else's power trip. I don't owe unconditional love to a flag, a politician, or a piece of land. My loyalty is to my family, my friends, my community, the people I can actually touch, see, and protect. That doesn't make me a traitor. It makes me free. Because here's the truth. Loving your country should be earned, not demanded. It should be a choice, not a prison sentence you're born into. So no, I'm not a little pink, and I refuse to become one. Because being a little pink patriot doesn't mean you love your country. All right? It means you have let somebody else hijack your mind and your emotions. It means you've been tricked into serving people who see you as disposable. Patriotism isn't sacred. It's a story. And like any story, you have the power to either believe it or rewrite it entirely.